Basically, the title. If you brought up wanting to change the color scheme, add some furniture, remove some furniture, reorganize your room, get a new carpet, and so on, how receptive would your wife be? Would someone have the final say, or would you need to reach a consensus? Edit. I'm asking because a friend of mine posed the idea that maybe traditional men do less cleaning because they don't feel ownership of their homes, the decor, furniture, and so forth. Admittedly, I had never thought of that before. Story 1. I don't know if it's control over decor as much as apathy. If it were all pink or too cutesy, I wouldn't like that, but otherwise, I don't really care. It's like asking how much control my wife has over the modem we use. I probably couldn't keep her attention on it long enough to explain the options. Story 2. Almost full. I am the artist of the two of us. She agrees with this and 99% of the time likes the stuff I ask her to look at before we buy it. I pretty much picked out all of our furniture, flooring, paint, counters, cabinets, wall hangings, window coverings, patio, deck, and small decor pieces. I enjoy living in my vision. She simply does not care that much. Except for one mildly infuriating thing. She has a gnome fetish. I am forced to live with a gnome in my garden and a little gnome wall hanging with "There is no place like gnome" on it, and Christmas gnomes. Story 3. Exactly as much as I want, and that is about none. My office is mine. I do not care about the rest of the house. As long as it has comfortable furniture and I am not having to remove pillows or other useless items to sit down or go to sleep, I do not care. Story 4. It is shared. Since my significant other cares more, they bring in whatever they like. I veto whatever I dislike. They pick from the remaining options. This way, I never have to live with something I do not like, and they always get what they want. Once I vetoed all the choices, they went out and got more options. Best of all, I do not have to go shopping for furniture or house decorations. Story 5. As much as I want. Usually, that means I can reject any changes, but generally, I do not care about home decor. Story 6. I have complete say, as does my wife. We make decisions together. In many circumstances, I let her make executive decisions. I accept what she wants to do. If I see any problems, I speak up. We communicate well because we both have our strengths and weaknesses, so we complement each other effectively. Story 7. Both of us are receptive to hearing the other in nearly everything. In the house, I rarely pay attention to decor, so I seldom have a preference. If I took a photo that I would like to display or something similar, I would have a conversation with her about why it was important. But I would most likely let her decide where to put it. It just does not matter that much to me, and she has a much better eye for that than I do. Story 8. Enough control that lets me sleep at night. I kid. We make decisions together. I normally do not have an opinion, but if I do, she knows that it is a strong enough mental reaction to warrant an opinion from me, so she takes it seriously. Story 9. Most. I have a good eye for that sort of thing. I built most of the furniture we own and a fair bit of the house itself. Story 10. I have veto power, which I can use sparingly. Generally, I have one room, my office, that I can buy things for unless my wife disagrees. Then the power is gone, and I do not make any choices involving fabric. Blankets and pillows have to be her decision. She spends very little time in my office. However, I did pick out the paint color for the walls. Story 11. I have as much control of the house decor as I want, which is none at all. I do not care about decor at all. If it makes my wife happy to choose colors, patterns, and fabrics, great. The only room in the house that I have decorated is my office. Story 12. Our opinions rarely clash because I don't often have them, and she also often doesn't have them, so I can offer some change and she says okay. But when they do clash, I have to give up. Maybe traditional men do less cleaning because they don't feel ownership of their homes. Let's be honest. Not so long ago, people literally said, "It's women's work." That is exactly the tradition. But yes, sometimes I can see that a different approach to doing things is perceived as incompetence, and that leads to the man avoiding doing it. I think some couples would benefit from letting the man run the house all by himself. That would help find out the areas he is lacking and make the woman familiar with his ways. So when later she is in a situation where he has to take over, she doesn't think, He is doing it wrong. No, it's not wrong. It's just different. But that is unrelated to the choice of furniture, I think. There may be some situations when the wife buys a carpet which is particularly hard to clean, but otherwise, decoration in the house is unrelated to the chores. Story 13. As much as I want. I do not care about tone. We have similar tastes, so I trust her. Plus, half of our bigger furniture is antiques we rebuilt or refinished or were perfect anyway, so we kind of curated our items together. But I trust her to make good decisions. Story 14. A good deal of control. She considers my input into aesthetic ideas, and I have veto power over whether I am going to invest my energy in a decorative project that I do not approve of. Story 15. I don't have much concern for it. I would rate it about 3 out of 10 in importance for me. However, she does like to involve me, and those times are enjoyable because shared activities are generally fun. Story 16. My wife and I discuss options and share our preferences. Often we decide together, but there have been many times when I decided not to override her preference, but because I knew what she liked and could act for both of us. I do not know if that is control, but she has always been happy with the decisions I made. Story 17. My wife and I have very similar tastes. 99.9% of the time, she shows me something she likes and I say, fine with me. The remaining 0.1%, I don't care enough to make a big deal about it. Story 18. I bought my house before my wife and I met. Once she moved in, she put up her decorative items along with mine. The overall aesthetic is still the same as I had, but now it is intermingled with our belongings. I keep my aesthetic, and she is allowed to bring home whatever furniture she finds. Story 19. Extremely little. I have a really good marriage, but this is one of the few points of contention. I have lots of books in storage, along with figurines and other items, because my wife does not want to add more bookshelves until certain things are done, such as finishing the basement and redoing our dining room. So, they all remain in boxes. Growing up, my dad had a lot of books that were disorganized, but I would find some gems. I wanted to keep my books neat and organized so that it is easy for my kids to find things to read, but they cannot find much if it is all in boxes. If I wanted to affect the decor of anything altogether, my wife would have the final say. It limits what I want to do for sure. All that being said, none of that changes how much ownership I feel over the house and its state. I still try to keep it tidy and clean. I live in it and so do my kids. I need to make sure it is safe and clean. Story 20. We have similar enough tastes that it is usually a calm process. Next year is possibly trouble though. She wants an all-white kitchen except for stainless steel appliances. I want light oak for the cabinets. Story 21. I do not want it. I could not care less about the decor as long as it is comfortable and functional. Do not touch my garage. Story 22. My wife and I are like-minded and get along very well in all aspects of life. We are both interested in art, design, and architecture. We are also practical people. We used to live in a big single-family home that we decorated together, with a mix of mid-century and classic pieces, lots of oriental rugs and original art. In 2018, we moved to a small apartment in New York City and did the same. We love our places. They are aesthetically pleasing, functional, and comfortable. Form and function is our motto. Story 23. I'm happy with basic and simple. I use furniture because it exists, not because it looks cute. My wife loves cute. It makes her happy, and it doesn't make a difference to me. Therefore, she has basically got complete freedom. Story 24. She is in control. I sneak in dinosaurs from time to time. She has a good laugh when she spots them. They stay where I place them. Story 25. I decorated 2 rooms in the basement mostly because she was not using them. It seems fair since I finished them over a 2-year period. The rest of the house is for her to decorate. It is important to her and I want her to be happy. Story 26. I am primarily in charge of those decisions. I wouldn't say my wife doesn't care, but she cares less than I do, and our place would look pretty bad if she were in charge of it. Her design sense is whatever I can get for free, put up haphazardly where it is most convenient right after receiving it. I do most of the chores in our relationship, but the main reason for that, which I think is somewhat universal, is having a lower tolerance for messiness. My wife cares more than I do about the floors being swept and things not being tossed on the bed or by the door, and she is always sweeping and reminding me to hang up my coat. However, I may go to work for 3 months, and she won't clean the kitchen or bathroom except for the floor even once. Her sense of organization is throwing everything in a closet or drawer and shutting it so it is out of sight. Story 27. I have ultimate veto power that I do not use often. I do not care about the decor. I am just not willing to spend a lot of money on something unnecessary. Since I pay for everything, that is the least she can do. Story 28. It's like 60-40. She takes my thoughts seriously, but she has some of her own ideas that she is adamant about. I do not care at all, though. I will give her my opinion when she asks, but she is welcome to decorate how she likes. The exception is my work and game room. That room is 100% mine. The rest of the house I have no real care about. Story 29. Why would I want control over decoration? Why did I get married in the first place if I wanted to worry about the decoration? Story 30. None, because she is much better at that than I am. I am a numbers person, and she is a creative person. We are perfectly happy with that. Story 31. I don't understand the feminist men want a bang maid trope. My home is a mess. My wife is a borderline hoarder, and I live in a house of Jenga. If you want to get to anything, you have to move something first, sometimes twice. For all the women complaining about dirty houses and husbands, I suspect there are many men who have to live in bad houses because their wives want to. This is not quite what the question was, but it is somewhat related. Story 32. We have complete agreement in the common areas and often find amazing additions for a common room while out in the world together. She has full control in her office and primary suite. I have full control in my primary suite. Story 33. I actually have far more control over the look of the house than she does, as she does not care. The only problem is that I do not do anything for decoration. Story 34. I mean, my wife would never say, "too bad," if she wanted something that I thought was unattractive. So, in veto power, I have complete control. That said, for most aesthetic things, I just really don't care. Tell me what color you want me to paint this wall and where you want me to hang this frame, and I am happy to make it happen. So the control is there if I want it, but I am perfectly content to relinquish it 9 times out of 10. Story 35. It is a catch-22. It's our space. We should all have ownership and be comfortable. When all is said and done, you have an opinion but not much say in what happens with interior decoration. If you weigh in on tile color and type, you get "that's nice." A week later, there is surprisingly tile that bears no resemblance in color or texture to the "that's nice" tile you showed. But you do get to install this new tile. The same goes for paint, countertops, and so on. If you mention your lack of enthusiasm for recent renovations, the significant other says, "We talked. You had an opinion, then installed the hideous paint and tile." There isn't much defense you can put forward against that interior ninja move. Story 36. I do not really think of what we have in our apartment as decoration. We are not painting the walls, for instance, since it is a rental. We have furniture, but we did not get it as a set meant to complement itself. When we add furniture, such as buying a new bed or a couch, it is a significant decision that we must agree on for cost reasons, not based on whose responsibility or opinion it is. Story 37. Well, to be honest with you, I do not want anything to do with the decoration of the house. So whatever she wants is fine with me. Story 38. There is a point to that. I did all my cleaning happily as I lived in my own place that I set up by myself, and my girlfriend did very little there. Story 39. I could control it completely, but why fight that battle? I have complete control over the basement and garage. We host holidays and events in the basement. It is very masculine and cabin-like. It is a good middle ground. Story 40. My home office is completely under my control. The rest of the house is mostly hers, as long as I do not dislike it. Paint and floor coverings are agreed upon. She is artistic and combines elements in ways I would never have imagined. The result is a very pleasing home. There are far too many pillows, though. Story 41. Almost none. Wayne Gretzky, the greatest hockey player of all time, won 9 most valuable player trophies. He keeps them on display in the garage. Story 42. Nothing to do with cleaning habits. But I really do not care for home decor, and I let her choose whatever she wants. Story 43. The whole house, my wife has had the lead design choice, but everything has been checked with me. I've either liked it or been indifferent, so we went with it. 2 rooms I've had the lead choice, and she's helped me iron out the details I couldn't figure out. Again, if she was opposed to something, we'd discuss it. For reference, 1 room is the office, which has Lego cars and things like Ghostbusters license plates on the wall. The other is the front room, which has my 5.1.2 Atmos system, consoles, and 3 giant canvas pictures on the walls. Star Wars, Back to the Future, and Zelda. If either of us is thinking about any changes, we speak to the other person, who is either happy with it or questions it. My wife literally bought some new bedding styles last week. Before she ordered, she checked that I was happy with them first. Story 44. None. To be frank, I do not really care. I have my own space that I can decorate as much as I want. The rest of the house, my wife decorates. Story 45. Everything in marriage involves discussion and setting boundaries. I like to participate in choosing color, art, and furniture. My study has the art I prefer, but it is not radically different from the rest of the house. I am unsure about the thesis. I think there may be something about traditional gender roles and the resulting uncertainty for men, and about final say, which sounds dominating versus agreement. We both know what we like and we mix it up. Sometimes we get it wrong, but there is fun in finding what works for both of us. Story 46. When my wife and I married 20 years ago, she sold her home and moved into my already established log home with rustic decor. She had unicorn-themed items. Obviously, these themes clashed. Over time, she disposed of most of her items. A year ago, we sold the log home and moved into a brand new modern home. We got rid of most of our furniture and decorations. She had a great time shopping for new furniture and decorations. I had veto power, used very sparingly, but mostly went with whatever she wanted since she gave up so much years earlier. As long as we were clutter-free, neat, and tidy, I am pretty flexible and will go with whatever she wants. Story 47. I have some input since I manage our finances, but I also understand what is and is not worth debating. Honestly, I do not care how she decorates as long as it is mostly paint and framed photo layouts. If we are discussing construction, then yes, I need to interject. Story 48. I will give her my opinion but would rather that she pick what she wants. It is more important to her than to me. Gladly. She is not into a bunch of girly decor. I would not like it, so that was easy. Story 49. We are a bit different. I have personally selected all the furniture, art, paint, tiles, flooring, and carpets in the house. She is included and has a say, but to be honest, it is not something she has ever been good at or comfortable with. She is always willing to learn, and most of the time she is hesitant. When she agrees with my idea, then it is done and she loves it. She is just not very good at visualizing things in a space until they are there. There are a lot of people like that. It is not a feminine or masculine trait. Story 50. I find that often I genuinely don't care or want to care about decor. I'm very much a function over form person. I share my opinion when asked, but very rarely do I suggest ideas about paint colors for the walls or floors. That said, my wife is absolutely receptive. In my marriage, no one has the final say. It's a joint venture. Domestic responsibilities are split depending on the time of year. One of us is traditionally busier than the other at any given time. Right now, it's probably 75% me handling inside and outside chores. The blessing is that I quite enjoy chores. So she lucked out because my vacuum lines are immaculate. Story 51. We are pretty equal. She will veto, I will veto. It took us 4 months to furnish the living room based on our agreement. We have similar taste and both care about our environment. As for chores, we are both lazy, but we get them done. Usually, when I am doing all the outdoor work, she deals with the inside. Except for bathrooms. Mine is my problem, hers is hers. The happy life equals separate bathrooms. Story 52. I get an equal vote and final say, but I rarely need or exercise them. I am lucky enough that my partner has an exceptional eye for it and has made our home beautiful, comfortable, and relaxing. Story 53. If you mention wanting to change the color scheme, add or remove some furniture, reorganize your room, or get a new carpet, I have never brought up any of those things because I don't care about decor except for not having stuff that is too unusual. There are even some things I actively dislike, but I don't care enough to make an issue of it. My wife and I have a good partnership. If I did care about decor, I'm sure she would be willing to discuss it, but I think she would get frustrated having to compromise because she has strong feelings about decor. Honestly, I'm just glad it is something she enjoys because the furnishings would be minimal if I were in charge. I would likely still have what I had before I met her. A couch, a TV, a couple of end tables and lamps, a desk, and a bed. Story 54. I could have more, but I just don't care. I think decor is just expensive garbage to move around. I move too much to want to own things for decoration. Most I'll do is posters, a tapestry, and some antlers I found. I'm happy to let her put her stuff up. She has good taste. She lets me have input on things like towels and shower curtains and often offers me more of a say, though she usually doesn't like my input anyway. I only get my way if I agree, hence partly why I no longer care. I'm trying to gently move her towards minimalism. I do the overwhelming majority of cleaning and maintenance, maybe 80-20 if I'm lucky. I've never dated or lived with a woman who wasn't messy. Story 55. My wife says I drive her crazy because I have an opinion and input on every bit of decor in the house. I have lost count of how many times I've heard her wish for one of those men who don't care about anything to do with the house. Story 56. Cosmetics. I have almost no say, but my wife knows what I like and takes it into consideration. If it's furniture, it needs to be comfortable and functional. If it's cabinet hardware, it needs to have smooth edges so I don't get my belt loops hooked on them. If it's flooring, it should be durable. I have full say in my shop, which is not decorated at all. Story 57. About 20%. Usually, I do not have very nuanced preferences. My wife brought home 5 different paint colors. They all just looked like white to me. Story 58. A lot of it. I redecorate and change the layout of the house as needed. My wife gets to customize her office and the bedroom. The rest of the house is up to me. Story 59. Pretty much everything that I liked and brought to the house, she hated and wanted to toss out, except the things she wanted to take with her when we divorced. I was also against getting divorced until something she said while we were dividing things up. I said, "That is my chest." I stripped the paint and restored it. Her answer was, "No, it's mine. I threw out all of your furniture." This was repeated several times with different things. For a wooden chair, I had to show a picture of me standing behind it at my parents' home some 20 years earlier. Story 60. I do not know if it helps, but my husband has total control over the basement man cave, his office, and outside. I cover the living areas. Story 61. When I had a wife, she would complain endlessly about my choices. She made most of them. It helped me knowing eventually how self-centered she was. I am glad that is over. Anyway, you can discuss what looks best, but be prepared to lose because women know better. Story 62. First, the women do all the household work data is self-reported. All the women I know are messy. I don't trust the accuracy. I am not saying men are not messy. Men just don't deny that they are messy the way women do. Second, I do not care about paint color, couch style, carpets, or other decor. If my wife wants to make a style change, she has my permanent approval. She is an oncologist and I am a director in sales engineering in the Bay Area. We can afford any piece of furniture she wants. The only exception is the kitchen. I like to cook, so what I say goes in the kitchen. She can have all sorts of meals cooked for her without doing any cooking, or she can design the whole kitchen, but she cannot do both. She has mastered walking around the kitchen looking cute and pouring me wine as I cook. I do all sorts of household chores. I can't speak for the baby boomer generation, but I don't believe that millennial men like me do fewer chores. I think the idea that traditional men do fewer chores because they don't feel ownership in their homes is an excuse. Many people disengage from relationships, but the suggestion that men are pushed out to be taken advantage of as providers is unreasonable. Story 63. I have full control. Ultimately, I have the final say. I rarely use that power. My wife asks my opinion on decor, takes it into account, then does what she thinks is best. Are there things in my house I don't like? Sure, but my wife really likes them, so I wouldn't ask her to change them for anything. My wife also doesn't want our house to look like a man doesn't live there, so the decorating choices reflect that. When my wife was a stay-at-home mom, she did 80% of the housework. My contribution to the household was a paycheck. Hers was the housework. Now that she's gone back to work some, the responsibilities are pretty evenly split. Thanks a bunch for sticking around till the end of the video. Remember to subscribe, and until next time, stay awesome and goodbye.